Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Comics Only, the only podcast where comedians talk with other comedians. My guest today is writer, comedian, and serial killer Garret Schwartz. What's up, dude?
Yeah, some of that's just a rumor, you know.
Okay, look.
I'm not officially a comedian.
That's a good one. Yeah, man. How many victims are you up to these days?
Victims. You know,
so I've been doing
start
this
with the hard-hitting questions, man.
I've been doing this thing on this podcast recently where in the intro I say something horrible about the person and then I see how well they yes and me. And if they do a good job, I'm like, yeah, you've definitely done improv before. And if they do a bad job, I'm like, hey, maybe you need an improv class if you ever consider that.
Oh, yeah. No, improv is fun. I mean, that's
you did good. You made a joke at least. I said something about somebody, and he was just like, hey, man, what the fuck? And I was just like, okay, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no.
I was like, I didn't know you actually abused children. Sorry.
No, I heard half of this stuff, you know, within the first couple months of doing comedy.
Yeah, right. How long have you been doing comedy?
About 10 months now, so almost a year.
Yeah, hell yeah. Just starting to get your feet under you, so to speak.
Right, get my sea legs.
Yeah, everybody knows who you are now. Takes a year.
Yeah, I guess
running a mic
I know a
helps.
bunch of people now.
Dude, man, I'm so stoked you run a mic, dude. Running a mic is how you get good at comedy, folks. It's really true. You just have to, like, go on and, like, fucking win back a crowd 20 times a night.
Yeah, pretty much. You go up cold. For the
makes
first
you
5
think
minutes.
in the moment, because even if you do a set up top, you don't have a set prepared for everything you say in between every comic.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're even kind of good, that's like 20 chances to make a one-liner or some sort of riff about their set or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's good practice remembering that shit, because that shit's, like, for me, the hardest part of comedy, dude, is, like, if I've thought of some funny things to say about, like, what's going on in the moment, trying to remember them all.
Yeah, that initial stuff.
And you know what the real key is just being in the moment so that you notice all the same shit. Like,
yeah, and you're always trying to remember a couple other things, too, like the last comic you brought up.
Right, who the next comic is.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you need to remember, and then there's one or two things you might really want to say.
Yeah.
So I usually find it's more important to remember stuff and or to say something funny if someone just bombed or if the room's kind of awkward or if people, you know, some ladies shifting in her seat because the last comic made her uncomfortable or whatever.
You can just say you made her uncomfortable, Eric.
Yeah, that's usually, calling out what's actually happening is a good one. But yeah, remembering those things when you need to. And I've been trying to get better, y'all, at not saying everything that's on my mind or not taking 30 seconds to a minute between every comic. And that way we can hopefully not have to go down to 3 minutes when we have a bunch of comics.
Nice, yeah. I mean, yeah, dude, there's a lot of different ways to handle that. You can just be, like, really short in between comics. I went to this really interesting, a friend of mine runs a mic up in Washington State where what he does is he hosts from a ghost mic off stage, and you don't even see him. And he's just like, all right, everybody, give it up for your first comic. And they go up, do a set. And then he's like, all right, give it up for your second comic. They go up, do a set. It's really quick in between comics.
Like
there's no host taking the stage and then coming off stage. It's just from the God mic. And then after, like, 8 comics or whatever, my buddy who's been hosting the whole time goes up and does 10 minutes. And it's not really jarring because you haven't even seen him yet.
But you've heard his voice all night.
You've heard his voice, but, like, it just doesn't feel the same as when if somebody who had been hosting going up in between every time came on and did a set, you would be like, oh, well, it's this fucking guy. But, like, there's none of that. You're just like, oh, yeah, I guess the voice is kind of similar. Like,
well, most hosts will do their time at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. The reason he does that, though, is because, like, actually, I don't know. But it does mean that he gets to do like 10, I think maybe he does 15 sometimes. till like there's at least the comics hanging out for the second half of the show.
Okay.
You know. Yeah, it's a good point. There's probably be more people there.
It's challenging on yourself too to try to do a set and get laughs from comics who've been sitting there for the whole show.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's always the fucking drama of open mics, dude. The worst was up in Portland where like it felt like all the rooms, like it was like cool not to laugh. Like wherever you'd go to open mics, like people only really laughed at their friends, and like just sometimes it would be so frustrating, like how like somebody would be doing something so dumb, but because they were like a liked person, everybody would be laughing, and then there'd be comics that were just like doing great jokes that were getting frozen out because nobody knew or liked them or whatever. And it's just like,
yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
that's rough. I don't see that much of that.
No, people are pretty cool here, dude.
Yeah.
Like, surprisingly so.
Yeah. I find it weird, like, when a comic's actually paying attention to my set.
Yeah. But I don't know.
Some do.
It's kind of weird, but, like, the Phoenix scene is a lot more supportive than I would have expected it to be.
People are great, yeah.
No, it's crazy, dude. Like, in a pursuit that is often filled with toxicity, and that in a place where I would just expect the utmost toxicity to exist, it's really not that bad. I think part of that is because the clubs don't really give a fuck about the local scene, which kind of all unifies us in this like, we're fucked. Like,
right. We're all kind of detached from that for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not a fair assessment. Maybe that's just me wanting to bring up again that the clubs don't care about us, because that's my favorite thing to bitch about recently.
Yeah,
but
that is the kind of commonality, is just each other. The people you see at these different places is what makes you feel at home a little bit, because the places keep changing.
Yeah.
You know, the places that I was told in the beginning, you got to go here, were shut down by the time I tried to, like, the place downtown.
Yeah.
I don't know, Wayward? Is that what it was?
Wayward,
that was, like,
Wayward's
supposed to be a good mic, and that had a lot of people, good audience at it. But, I mean, yeah, things change, and the places change, but
things change,
the
dude.
people, like, are chill, and, yeah, we all know we're trying to do something up here that's challenging but fun, and we're trying to make it fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. We don't want shit to be awkward or feel like we're competing with each other.
Right.
Or like, if you have a great set, I should feel bad.
No, definitely
any
not.
of that.
Right.
Like, we're all just trying to have fun, so the more we're supportive of each other.
Yeah. Hey, just let me check something on this real quick. It looks kind of funny. I'm just going to assume it's fine. Yeah, it looks fine. Bah, 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 bah. Yeah, okay, never mind. Sorry. Right. This is a very professional podcast, folks. What was I going to say? Have you ever thought about taking like an improv class or something like that? Or have you ever done any improv?
Not much. I did like a couple sketches in high school, I think. And, you know, little back and forth with people, random skits.
I've done the improv class at Stir Crazy a bunch, and I really like it. I wouldn't have done it a bunch, quote unquote, if I didn't think I was getting a lot out of it. It's just important to be able to think in the moment, and it's a way to practice that.
That makes sense.
But you can do it on stage too. It's just like, I will encourage you now, and people encouraged me when I first started, and I didn't really listen as much as I should have. The more you can practice being in the moment and not being like super hyper committed to what you were going to say, and like at least balancing those things, right? It's good to prepare, have a set list, have bits that you've worked on and you know are like good material, but also be willing to try and make jokes about what is going on in that room specifically.
Stay in the room.
Stay in the room.
Mentally staying in the room,
or if like the audience has certain responses to your jokes, like a very good way to write jokes is to have different directions you'll go depending on how the audience responds.
Yeah.
And not just saves. Like saves are good. Like, it's good to have, like, something in your back pocket for when a joke doesn't work that can make it work.
Yeah, that landed like a South Korean.
I used to do this bit back in Oregon about people fucking sheep, and nobody ever liked it. No, everybody hated this fucking. Well, sometimes it did well in really fun rooms, but for a lot of the times, it just made people upset and wasn't fun. And I would go, like, I had different points at which I would bail out of the joke depending on how well it was going. And whenever I would bail out of the joke, I'd be like, man, these jokes never go over well. But still, every day I wake up like, I really think I'm onto something with this sheep fucking bit. And that almost always crushed, even if the joke had done horrible.
The self-awareness. And then saying sheep fucking again combined with the self-awareness.
But every now and then it would do so well that I couldn't say that because it would feel weird.
But then you can find something else with the directional thing. Like, if people are really loving it, it's like, you like the sheep
big
fucking
bestiality crowd, huh?
Yeah,
like, what,
I don't
that's
know.
very,
Maybe that
very
is,
hacky, but is an example of that.
Yeah, that's an example of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, one I had was just a lead-in to dating. Like, I've been dating a bit more lately. Mm-hmm. And if there's no response, I'd be like, yeah, that's the right response. It's not going well. And then, joke about how it's not going well.
Yeah.
Or if they start cheering, I'd be like, yeah, calm down. It's not going well.
Sure.
Hold the applause.
Yeah.
And then either way, same joke after that's leading into.
Exactly.
But
exactly. Having, like, a dynamic way to perform so that you're adjusting based on what actually happens.
Yeah.
It's very important. And
not ignoring shit that's distracting everybody or something just happened. There's like a machine that's in the corner that just clicked on. It's obviously distracting everybody.
Especially where you're at in your career. If something like is going on, practice addressing it. There's like, don't just like roll through your material while nobody listens or whatever. Like,
just push through.
There's certain like mics, like it'll probably happen sometime to us together, I bet, where there's certain mics where it's just like comics and like you can just be like, this room doesn't want material. And it's like, I tell people, I'm like, don't do any material when they go up there.
Yeah.
And like, that's scary. It's hard. It's like, what do you mean? I just have to make it all up? Yep, make it all up. Like, good luck. But like,
if you have to roast everybody in the room one by one, that might be better.
I'm going to be like actively upset if I go up there and have to watch you bomb while you just recite jokes we've all heard before. Like, I'll yell at you. I promise I will. There's just no point to that. I did it so many times. Like, probably the reason I feel so strongly about it is I hindered my own development by being a comic that was too attached to what I had planned to say and too attached to doing my jokes a certain way and not like really switching up. And for like a long time, it was very obvious that I was like kind of robotic in how I performed.
I've been working
and it
on
really
that.
held me back.
Yeah, I've been working on that.
Yeah, that's dude. Hosting a mic will fucking get rid of it for sure. Like that's the best way to like just get comfortable on stage. Really, is what it is. You're just learning how to be yourself on stage.
For sure. And that room, we're so close to people. Like they can see, they can see your face. You can see at least a few faces. The light's pretty bright. Mm-hmm. It's intimate. And people say something and you hear it. And
that's the best for comedy, though, is intimate. Like a tiny room packed full. God, it's just the best. It gets so weird when comedies in like theaters are like I went and saw Bill Burr with a friend of mine, and we're in the back of the Financial Theater, and like you're just watching on a screen. You see him down there, but you're like. You can't see any facial expressions. You're watching the screen the whole time. And it was cool to see Bill Burr and to be part of that. But, like, it's just such a, like, non-intimate experience.
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, it works, obviously, because you could be pretty far away and still have a great time, and it's like the jokes are still working on you, right?
Yeah. But I don't know. It felt more like when I'm at home watching Netflix and I'm going, this is great. Instead of like when you're surrounded by people dying of laughter and you're just like can't help but lose it.
Yeah, just in the middle of it.
That's the best, dude. And I mean, I'm sure if I had floor seats, it would have been like that. Like you could tell that front area that could see him clearly was like into it. Yeah. And then everybody else is kind of just, you're enjoying the vibe. I don't think I would go to another show at that theater without getting like the expensive floor seats or whatever, though. Like,
now you know.
It was, yeah, now I know for sure. It was just like those seats were built for a time when people were skinnier. And you're like, kind of like, you feel, I don't know. I felt trapped. I don't know. It was all right, but.
Yeah. Fair enough. I don't go to.
And I would hate it at like an arena or whatever. Yeah. Fucking Tom Segura just did like where the Suns play, the Footprint Center. He's in the round.
Oh, okay.
Like
they put a.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's like that's not, I don't know. That's not how comedy's supposed to be. But like. Yeah, he's got like I can sell the tickets. What do you want from me?
Because he's like you're like under everybody. Yeah, in the basketball.
It's so
arena,
weird.
Right?
Yeah,
there's not even. They could probably bring in some additional seats onto the floor.
There was floor seating for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty crazy. It's crazy they can sell that many tickets. That's like
big times. For
they must get probably close to $1 million for doing that. I bet.
I don't even know the numbers.
If not, it's certainly.
Oh, you mean the comedian?
Yeah. If it's not $1 million, it's certainly hundreds of thousands.
Depending on how closely connected they are to the people organize or the organization running it. I'm just kind of speculating.
For sure.
Segura's like
I don't know the exact
pretty
deal.
Well organized business wise.
For sure.
So he's hopefully not giving up a bunch to like a manager, production company.
Oh, I mean, I don't know about all that. For sure, he's got to pay a lot of fucking taxes or whatever. Yeah. I think I might quit comedy and start shooting CEOs. I want people to like me.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that. He's like, please do quit. That's so funny. I do that too. I tell people to quit a lot. Not really, but.
No, the CEO's part.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
I guess the quitting comedy part, if we're all in competition, but I don't feel that way,
Somebody told me, like, when I first started, they were like, if you don't have to do comedy, you shouldn't. And at the time, I was like, okay, you're so fucking dumb. Like,
what do you mean have to?
Like, if you're just not, like, compelled with, like, yeah, exactly. That, exactly. That's why I thought it was dumb. I was like, okay, yeah, you have to. But, like, the longer I've been doing it, the more I realize how true that is. Like, comedy sucks, dude. And it's so much, like, pointlessness and, like, just driving for so far to wait 2 hours to perform for 7 people.
Yeah.
And, like, if you can't.
It's rough.
Like, the problem is I hate myself even more if I just stay home and watch TV.
Yeah, that's better. Once you've done it a few times, you know that calculation at like 4 p.m. or whatever. You're like, I'm either going to sit here and fuck myself, I'm candy or alcohol or whatever.
Yeah, and that, yes.
And I have back pain in the morning and see more reruns of, Seinfeld or It's Always Sunny or whatever. Or you're going to go do the shit that you are going to be thinking about anyway while
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like both are so horrible. Both options.
No, it's so good. It's be grateful for the shit and the mud. I know I'm just barely through boot camp of the shit.
Dude,
you're like an E5 or something.
Yeah, I don't know shit about ranks, but I do know I'm at like the point in my career. Can't even say that. I'm at the point in my career where I'm getting at least a couple club spots every month, and it's like as long as I have something like kind of decent to look forward to, I'm like I'll be okay. Yeah.
Do you see it as like like you want another? Do you see it as a challenge when you have a 10 or 20 or something coming up, and does that keep you going?
Yeah, I'm always trying to do my best. I'm always trying to like get more club spots and just be like so hard breaking into that here, man. Like, there's a lot of people that have been doing comedy in Phoenix a long time.
Yeah.
People you don't really know because like they're kind of like graduated from the mic scene in a sense. Because they like most of them don't really come out like that because like they get enough club spots and other shows that like bar shows become their open mics, and then they just like treat the club spots more serious.
And it kind of
and then like you'll probably see them at like those kind of people at like the Stir Crazy open mic or mic drops open mic.
Yeah, they might be opening or closing or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Or guest hosting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Just that because they're associated with the clubs, those mics are a little bit more prone to have like the bigger comics, whatever, you know. But there are a lot of those people, and like the clubs are and they're all in their own way are very protective of their stage and like what people bring to their stage. Like Stir Crazy's audience base is so like for the most part it's like especially on the weekends they're like older, more conservative. It's like they want pretty close to clean comedy, dude.
Oh, okay.
Like
so my wet ass pussy 2.5 minute parody.
Yeah.
That did, in the words of other people, murder them.
Yeah, I mean,
it was fun.
At the open mic, I'm sure it crushed. Did you were on the mic recently, right? Or are you on this week?
No, that was a few weeks, couple few weeks ago.
How would that go?
It was good. It was good.
There
it was
people
all
there?
like really tested material that I.
And then it went well
I
when you
treated
did
it like a show because
of course
I
you
did
should
the same material
Absolutely,
like 4 times that week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went well.
Good.
I just never realized that, you know, if you're trying to get noticed or start a relationship with Stir Crazy or whatever over time, should bring a little bit more family friendly or generational friendly. It just seems like if you...
Oh, don't worry about that right now, dude. Like,
okay, cool.
Just, if you had material you wanted to do it and see how well it does. Like...
Yeah, sometimes there's something you just want to see what it's like in that setting.
Of course. And that Wednesday night crowd's fun, dude. I've fucked around and said some crazy shit to the Wednesday night open mic crowd, and they're always cool. Or usually cool, at least. It's just like, man, I convinced Tom, the owner, to let me host for a weekend. And I don't think it went like that. He definitely hasn't asked me back. And like I was kind of surprised at how like uptight I found those crowds.
Oh, dang. Just different crowd than you're used to there? Or
yeah, for sure, because the mic's so different. Because the mic is like oftentimes family and friends of other comics, and then there's a bunch of other comics there, so they all laugh at pretty wild shit. So like it becomes a lot more fun of a room when it's not people who paid $25 a ticket or whatever, you know, whatever their weekend ticket price is.
I hear you. And weekend crowd potentially be more out of towners,
for sure,
and tourists, and
always
people.
That, yeah. But like sometimes the crowds are cool, like you know, I do Thursdays and Sundays there sometimes, and sometimes the Thursdays and Sunday crowds are pretty cool. Man, it's always weird when like a club is tough, like
when the crowd's tough.
Yeah, because like usually they're pretty hot in the club. It's like people. It's like a comedy club. They know they're there to laugh.
Sure.
And
the settings are right.
But every now and then, like they're just like we're here and we paid money, but we're not gonna laugh, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, you're not bringing whatever you know.
I had a
whatever
show
emotion
there.
was
I had
gonna
a show
stroke them.
there in December, early December, and I went up first, and I had like what I would describe as an okay set, but I felt pretty good about it because I could tell the audience was stiff. I was like, they're not gonna laugh a lot tonight in general, and somebody came up to me as soon as I got off stage, and they were like, "Hey, man, going first is tough." I was like, "Okay, like I wouldn't have said that until after I went up if I were you, but see how you do." And then they went up like fourth and bombed like way harder than I did.
Oh boy!
And I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, going fourth is tough too, huh, buddy?"
Yeah, sometimes sometimes you're just off, or
no, it's just that crowd, dude.
The crowd is tough, and
they were like,
can't bring them back.
It was after after the football game, the Seahawks Cardinals game. And, like, a bunch of people just, like, basically wandered over and were, like, probably pretty drunk, I would imagine. And, like, we're just kind of, like, sitting there staring. Dude, the fucking 4 people in the front row that I could see were all in their 70s. And for my whole set, they were just sitting like this the whole time.
Oh, dang.
And that's all I could see was their faces. And then everything else was pitch black.
Do you think people get... I think in some places, shorter and dirtier, edgier or whatever, but shorter jokes work better because the audience is just like low patience or low attention span because it's like you can't hold a long thought in your head, a long new thought in your head when you're wasted.
I think in general, that's a good like thing to assume is that shorter's better, always in comedy.
But that's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, I have a lot of, short jokes that I like, but you're trying to put together a set, so you want to build jokes into a longer story.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not very good. I don't really like, actually, I don't know how true that is. There's somewhat of a narrative to like my set, but not really, dude. It's mainly just like I do this bit, then I do that bit, then I do that bit. Like it's not. I'm not worried about the story, really. I don't know how much that's worth putting. I think writing jokes and practicing getting jokes out is like the best thing when you're starting out.
Okay.
I think all that other stuff will kind of fall into place as you start doing longer sets.
Yeah.
It's like, how much can you even tell a story in 5 minutes?
Well, I'm not even necessarily, so, a story or just a thought that's longer than 15 to 30 seconds.
I mean, for sure you can have bits that are longer than 15 to 30 seconds. They just got to be, like, tight with jokes.
Yeah.
You should be telling a joke at least every 30 seconds.
At least. Yeah. And
probably way more than that, but like that's a good minimum or whatever.
Right. That needs to have like a kind of a funny premise or something that's interesting along the way, and it needs to pay off if it's one laugh for 30 seconds.
Yeah. But like the way I write, man, like for the most part, I have some bits that contradict this. I'm a hypocrite, okay?
There are no rules.
There's no rules. Nothing matters. There's nothing sacred. That's basically what comedy boils down to.
Yeah. In America.
Yeah. I have some bits that contradict this, but in general, I try to write bits where every single thing I say, I'm trying to make people laugh. So like my setup, I like to get a chuckle or two, or like get some laughs on my setup, and then the punchline hits even harder. Like, that's just how I write. It doesn't always work out that way, and sometimes like, I have a couple jokes for sure. It takes me like 3 or 4 sentences to build all the information I need to get to the punchline I'm going for. But in general, that's what I write. The first thing I say, I want people to laugh, and then single thing I say after that.
Yeah, and it's working together so that there's a punchline on the whole thing where it's more of a laugh.
Exactly. And then it doesn't always work out that way, and especially not in every set. But, like, if you're writing with that amount of expectation where you're like, this is where people should laugh, then it's like sometimes even when they don't laugh there, as long as you don't let it show that it's bothering you, you know, like,
Yeah.
then you can just keep going and get to the next punchline, and they'll just think it was building to that punchline.
Yeah.
Like
And it still is.
and
Yeah.
it still is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just didn't pay off as much as you wanted to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why performing a lot and like getting good at comedy is basically just bombing so much that you can't care anymore. You're just like, oh, like I can feel it now when I'm on stage, like how little it bothers me when a set starts to go poorly. I'm just like, oh yeah, Eric's bombing again, big surprise. Like,
Yeah.
it's
being
just
flexible in the
happens so
moment.
much that it's not like, doesn't fuck with me emotionally, or like, it doesn't make me nervous. I'm not like, oh my God. It's like, okay, we're going to get through this.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully maybe I can turn this around. And that, like, being loose and comfortable in bombing really allows you to be yourself on stage more. Were you at that Sage and Sand show? You were.
Yeah.
Were you there for my set when they were doing the sound check?
Oh, yeah.
And so, like,
And you commented about
first thing I said when I went on stage is, like, it's always fun doing a show when there's setting up for a bigger and better show that more people are going to go to. And that kind of, like, set the idea of what was happening in everybody's mind. Mm-hmm. And then later they started doing, like, sound
electric
check.
guitar.
Like,
Yeah.
testing, like, the wave pedal and shit. It was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go home and end it all. And that just fucking crushed, dude. Being willing to be in the moment and just be like, I had already let them know it bothered me so that when it got more intense, they went with me on the joke.
Yeah.
I'll say this, dude. I love being able to make a fucking suicide joke work.
Yeah.
Dude, I went to Sierra Vista. Do you know where that is? It's like 3 hours
roughly.
south of here. God, it's so
Yeah.
fucking far away. I went with my friend Jorge. He was headlining, and I did a joke about suicide during my set, and it went like pretty well. It went well. It was one of my only jokes that did well that night. And then afterwards, a lady went up to Jorge, and she was talking to him, and she's like, you know, you really shouldn't do jokes about suicide. And Jorge's like, I didn't. And she's like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, though. He's like, are you complaining to me about my opener's jokes? And she was just like, I guess. And he's like, I don't know what to say right now.
Yeah. Gee, I'm not going to pass it on.
Yeah. But I overheard the whole conversation. I was like, you could have just came and said that to me.
Yeah.
And I would have said, kill yourself. No.
Some time on stage will develop a lot of self-awareness that would prevent a lot of heckling.
Yeah.
Or just commentary that's like,
You learn how to deal with it.
I didn't appreciate.
I was
blah,
doing
blah.
a show in Oregon. And I was like, all right, guys, I'm about to get out of here. And this woman goes, please. And I was like, oh, please. Like, lady, I'm this close to killing myself already. You think I'll do it right here in front of you.
There you go.
And that it did well that night, too.
Good.
Yeah. I was like, listen, lady, there's nothing you can say to me that's going to make me hate myself more than I already do.
That's a good one that you can reapply.
Yeah.
As much
And
as
then
you
when
need.
people heckle me, I'm always like, please don't yell at me. I don't want to get an erection in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And that's a fun one.
Yeah, that is
That's
a fun one, too.
Yeah, you learn how to deal with stuff, man. But that's what I'm talking about, being in the moment. It's like every now and then you'll be at like an open mic and somebody will get a heckler, which fucking sucks. But they just like try to ignore them and like keep doing their material while it's like fucking up their set. And it's like, you can't do that, buddy. Like, you gotta figure something out, you know?
Yeah, you got to work with it or shut it down. Or,
Yeah. And I mean, depending on what it is, ignoring is the best protocol for like a split second thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Be hard to recognize, but yeah, you got to.
if it's not a continuous interruption, just ignore it.
Mm.
But as soon as you realize it's gonna be a continuous interruption, you have to address it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because then that's the point when it's actually distracting people from what you're saying on stage.
Yeah. Like, especially depending on how basic it is. Like, if you're up there and you say something and somebody goes, yeah, you're right. It's like, you can try ignoring that. It's not really adding anything. It's not contradicting. Like, there's not really a funny place to take it.
Right.
It's just somebody but if they do it again, you're going to be, this is going to be like a thing. Like, I got to address it.
Like, hey, I don't need a hype man.
Right,
you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I hope you like the joke when I get done with it or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good line. Or maybe I should get a hype man.
Right, yeah, that's the old, like,
yeah,
imply that you like it, but it's obvious you don't like it. Like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, you hype man? Oh, maybe I should hire one of those and punch up my jokes a little bit.
Right.
But
I was at a show the other night, and the music from, like, it was in a side room, kind of like yours, and the music from the main bar was so loud that it was just, like, infiltrating the room.
I've had that.
Yeah, I bet. And it just really kind of, like, was noticeable to me when the comics didn't address it in some way, when they just went up there and did their set normal instead of, like, at least acknowledging that there was, like, a soundtrack to this fucking set.
Right. The host maybe could have or should have noticed it, or a comic can say to the host, hey, the music, is there anything they can do to, because sometimes they can just turn it down on one side of the room.
Yeah, of course.
Close to where
I think
that
the problem
is.
this night was that they had a band.
Oh, a live band.
Another bar. So it was just going to be a tough one.
When it's conflicting, when there's karaoke going on, like the place I host, they have us make sure we wrap up by 9 because karaoke starts like 9:15.
People take that serious.
And they don't want those two sounds and crowds happening at once.
Of course.
I guess. But
no, that makes sense.
You do need to address, and you can like address it and then get a laugh and then get an interaction going and get some bits through.
It felt way more natural when people did to me.
Yeah. Well, so there was once at Bridget's, and I was hosting, and I was going into my bits, my like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it was at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like 2 minutes in, and Landslide by Fleetwood Mac.
Okay.
It's like an emotionally gripping song with this acoustic guitar hook that comes in the beginning. And everybody is obviously noticing it. I'm like, all right.
Well, let's all just have a moment together.
Yeah. As I try to bring the crowd up here, just got really sad for some reason.
Yeah.
So
that's
gotta adjust that.
What comedy is, Garrett. It's stuff like that.
And then you find something funnier to say next time or whatever.
Yeah, or you think of something later. God, that's the worst. Yeah, God, that would have been perfect.
Yeah,
just 3 days too late, and for like a situation that'll never happen again. One time I called a heckler a cunt, and the crowd was like pretty cool considering, but like, it definitely like wasn't the right move. And then after that, whenever I would get a heckler, I would go, I'd be like, one time I called a heckler a cunt. I won't make that mistake again.
Oh,
which is go. Like kind of calling the new heckler a cunt in your own way, but like dancing, you're kind of dancing around it.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, I'm not gonna do that again, but fuck you.
Right, it kind of applies.
Yeah, not because I thought I was wrong.
Yeah, I haven't experienced a lot of like actual intentional trying to ruin your set heckling.
Yeah.
Or like trying to.
This is going to get me in some trouble, but
a little bit, you know.
Yeah. This is going to get me in some trouble, but I'm going to say it anyway. Well, no. If anybody ever listens to this podcast, it may get me in some trouble. I felt like heckling was a lot worse in Portland or in Oregon. And I feel like it was because women wanted to tell men they were wrong. I feel like so much of the time it was just a woman just didn't like what I had to say or didn't like what one of my friends had to say.
Woman's.
There was definitely men who heckled, but in general, that was my experience.
Womansplaining.
Yeah. Yes.
To the comedian.
Womansplaining. You know what, dude? It's good to be in a safe haven like Arizona where I can say what I want.
Sure.
Everybody gets. Dude, what's really funny? The difference between here and Oregon is so striking, and like all the differences are so like I don't know, kind of weird to me. Like in Oregon, there's a bunch of, it's the least diverse scene. It's all white people.
Audience
and
or comics?
Everybody, dude.
All right.
Oregon, dude, you know, Oregon was the first state to outlaw slavery because they didn't want black people there at all. So they made slavery illegal like way before anybody else so that nobody brought any black people there.
Weird.
Yeah.
Like we hate them so much we don't even want them here
for free labor. You know how
abused.
racist you have to be to turn down free labor? It's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's insane. And so that's the history of Oregon, and it's very white now, dude. It's getting better, and there's like a good amount of like Asian immigrants, and their Mexicans make their way up there for sure. But like compared to here, it's not diverse at all. But especially the comedy scenes. But it's like a very undiverse scene where everybody's very strict about what you can say, and nobody there gets along very well at all. Well, a lot of people there don't get along very well at all. I'm sure they have their in-groups and whatever. But
sounds
here,
like they made a perfect scene, perfect scenario to destroy comedy.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, dude. But then here, it's very diverse. There's basically no rules about what you can say. And everybody gets along great.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. And I'm just talking in general. Like, there's comics in Portland that are friends and get along. But, like, the scene is very cold to itself in certain ways. Like, they don't embrace new I don't know. I haven't been around in a long time. I shouldn't talk shit. Some comic from Portland's gonna hear this. Who the fuck is this guy to even say this shit?
Yeah, it could be better.
I've been gone a while.
I don't know.
And I wasn't in I wasn't in Portland constantly. Like I lived in Eugene, so like I just was like kind of on the outskirts of that scene. But that was just my experience when I was there. Maybe it's just me. Maybe they're very warm to everybody else. Do you travel? Have you ever gone out of state and done comedy yet?
No, not out of state.
Oh, really? I've done comedy in Washington, Oregon, California, and here, I think.
Cool.
I don't think anywhere else.
Yeah, no. Did Tucson, Mike down there, because I was down there.
Did you go to Laugh?
A couple times. Was that? Oh, no,
On
just
Thursday?
Music Box on Saturday.
Oh, word no.
Because I was there on a Saturday.
Cool. Laughs on Thursday can be a good time. That might can be a good time.
All right, yeah, I'll check it out.
I think it's like 4 minutes. It's not really worth the drive unless you're there anyways.
Yeah, I was just there anyways on a Saturday.
Just
so
like, dude, that fucking club, dude. He had the guy who like runs it and books it had me come down and do like an audition by hosting the mic. So I like drove down there and hosted the mic and did a good job, I thought. And he was like, yeah, man, you were great. We'll definitely get you down here for a weekend. And then I just like emailed him a bunch of times and never got spots. So I was like, all right, maybe not.
No, fair enough.
Yeah. I think he was like being cool and did like me and just like is busy and
overpromised to too many people or something.
Yeah. And like just I'm sure they like having local people host because they know they're close and people weren't going to cancel on them. I'm sure that's kind of an issue sometimes. Like people don't want to make the drive from Phoenix and cancel last minute. Who knows?
Maybe.
For sure, clubs can be weird about that kind of stuff. One time I was at an audition at a club in Seattle, and the guy told everybody we all passed. And then, like, I was back a couple months later and just tried to get a spot on the open mic. at their club, and I didn't get a spot. And when I hit them up, I was like, "Hey, man, I just thought it was kind of weird. I didn't get a spot. I'm not really around, and I'm not really in town that much. So, like, I won't be able to make it back next week or whatever. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a mistake." And he's like, "Yep, nope, not a mistake. Just didn't have room for you, buddy." And I was like, "Okay, well, if I can't even get on the open mic, I'm clearly not like passed at this club, whatever that
what
means."
does passed
so like,
mean? They have like a follow-up suggestion.
It feels like he just didn't want to like tell people they weren't passed, so it was easier to just be like, "Yeah, you're all passed" or whatever, you know. Because I thought it was weird at the time that it wasn't like an individual thing.
Yeah, everybody seems weird.
Yeah,
but you know, it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, it's like possible for everybody to score 10 out of 10 or whatever on an exam, but it's unlikely, I guess.
Yeah.
Something in your brain is like, that seems unlikely.
Right.
But I haven't had that experience, but I think there are some mic hosts who could be more assertive or more, and I've been working on that too, especially with heckles, because we had a heckler who I should have found a way to shut down sooner.
Yeah, you got it.
Increasingly aggressive, but I learned a couple things that night. Learned how to do it better.
And I mean, like, there's only so much you can do sometimes. Like, sometimes somebody won't shut up, you know?
Yeah, but even hosts, like with comics, if there are, you know, a lot of comics not letting some go way over, or finding a way to stop someone from doing like double the time or whatever, or I don't know, different mics, different situations.
Yeah, always, dude. Like, there's always different issues you got to learn to deal with, and you got to definitely try to shut hecklers down. Just know that there's only so much you can do sometimes. Like,
yeah,
I had a heckler at my mic a couple weeks ago, and the guy's like, you know, he starts heckling, I think, while somebody else is on stage, and I don't know if they even really addressed it. But, so I get up, and I'm like, this guy in the back thinks he's funny. You want to sign up, buddy? This is an open mic. Anybody can go up. You don't have to yell at us from the back. You can fucking do some time. He's like, no, I'm good. I'll just be back here and yell. No, I'm saying don't do that. And he's like, yeah, well, whatever. Fuck you. And I'm like, all right, well, this is going to go horrible.
Yeah, the self-aware, annoying person, that's when it's really frustrating, and like you can't do anything until you could talk to the bar manager.
I was like, look, buddy, this is horrible enough as it is. This is us following our dreams. Can you please not make it any worse than it has to be? Yeah. And he still just kept heckling everybody. And it was just like, unless I got to the point where I was I would literally have to ask the bartender to kick him out, I think, which, like, I'm not going to do at an open mic, basically. Like, I'll just let everybody get their practice dealing with a heckler before I fucking ask a customer to leave, probably.
I think you can, it depends on how
aggressive. Because it's so rare that you
being.
Yeah, if there's any threat of, like, a physical thing, I'm on getting that person removed.
Yeah.
But, like, if I think they're just going to yell throughout the show, I'll just let everybody get their practice deal. It's such a rare thing that's like, all right, this is just what we're doing tonight. Like, surprise, surprise, a shitty open mic got ruined even more. Like, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I think if you're anywhere where it actually matters, there's somebody who can deal with it.
Right. There's security or
stir crazy, you know, they have a manager that'll deal with it. They have the people that'll get them out. Like, all the clubs are able to kick somebody out.
All right, that sounds fair. I mean, different people will respond to different things. Yeah. So I think you can find, or, you know, I've tried to find a way to make a person feel uncomfortable about what they're doing, or feel like they should leave, or they would
that's what you're trying to do.
Feel better off. Feel everyone would be better off if they left.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can put the spotlight on someone enough to everyone and just be like, hey, you see how everybody hates you right now?
Of course. Sometimes
and you don't want to, because that's
and I mean, you can ask people to leave. Like, I've said into a microphone, just be like, why are you still here? You clearly hate the show and don't want it to go well. Can you just please leave?
Yeah.
You know, you can do there's a lot that you can do.
Yeah.
But, like, you can't, it's hard to force somebody to leave.
Yeah, the most I can probably do is
Ask kind of politely.
threaten to have someone else have them removed, knowing that it's just a bluff and hoping they won't call my bluff. But
You want me to call the fucking cops? I'll do it, you pussy. Yeah, comedy is the worst, dude. But it's also the best. It's a very contradictory thing. I think it's very healthy to have like mixed feelings about comedy. I don't think it's healthy to just be like, oh man, comedy's the best and I love it so much and it brings so much to my life. And I get so much meaning and validation from going on stage. And I don't think it's healthy to be like, oh man, comedy's the worst and I hate myself and I'm never funny and I don't know why I do this to myself.
Yeah, you see both. Well, more the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see both. You see both in the same people sometimes. It's a career trajectory. You start off very hopeful and happy and very much feeling the validation that comes from comedy. And then as time goes on, that starts to wane and you start to see all the pointlessness and like...
Well, it feels pointless in the beginning too.
Yeah,
I mean,
but like...
You notice it takes 4 or 5 hours, including driving and waiting to get...
You know what I mean,
4
though,
or 5
like,
minutes on stage.
You have some gusto when you're starting out for whatever... Or at least I did.
Yeah.
You know? God, it's embarrassing how fast you feel like a real comic when you start out. Like, your first couple weeks, you're like, man, I'm really doing this thing. And then, like, now that I'm like I'm just past 5 years doing comedy now, and like I feel like the most imposter syndrome I've ever felt, where it's like, man, I'm still really bad and it's so hard to get better and it's so hard to like just get the shit you want and to be as good as you want at comedy. And like it's a very interesting thing where you would think it would be opposite, where as you get, because like I'm definitely better at comedy than I was ever was.
Yeah.
So why do I feel that like but it's just because like you realize how long a pursuit it is that like
and
basically.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, anybody that's made it has been doing comedy like 10 years at a minimum for the almost always, dude. Sure. And like sometimes a lot more than that. I just went and saw Renan Hirschberg. Do you know who that is? On last Monday, and like
Renan,
he was great. And I think he's been doing comedy like 15, 20 years or something.
Sounds
and he's just starting to break. And it's like, Jesus Christ. And he's been like in all the right places, you know, like he's been doing comedy 15, 20 years in New York.
Right.
Like not, you know, you can fucking do comedy 20 years in Phoenix and nobody matters who will ever see you. And you'll never get any great opportunities because of that. But he's been on stage in front of people who matter and is just now getting to the point where they're like, he's ready or whatever. Like, it's this weird thing in comedy where, like, it's kind of on you to get to that point. Like, with how the internet is these days and how accessible everything is, like, the only way to, like, really make it is to truly stand out. To truly be exceptional to the point where like people pay attention, you know. Yeah. It
talent,
sounds
hard
so
work,
basic.
all the things.
Sounds so basic, but like if you put out something that's just like kind of mediocre, it's gonna get forgotten about so fast.
Well, I think you should have a recurring imposter syndrome, or a questioning of how funny the things you were saying actually were.
Always that.
I might feel like a comedian, like I'm really doing this for 90 to 180 seconds after a good set. And then I'm like, oh, they're super drunk and, they're just laughing because the guy before me had kind of a bad set and I had a good set, and everybody has a good set sometimes.
Well, that's actually true. So that's healthy to tell yourself that. Yeah. Dude, I don't know. Sometimes I really feel like how well I do is just like how much the audience is in a good mood that night. And I like really doubt my ability to how much I influence that. Yeah. Hopefully I'm getting better at it. I think I am. I'm having more sets that start out kind of shitty and then get good, which is a good sign, you know. And for a long time now, I've been feeling like I have good sets in rooms where other people aren't. So I'm proud of that too. Like,
It's a decent metric.
open mic champ.
Yeah, you don't want to be competing or comparing yourself to others. But sometimes when you're super,
I do it so bad, dude.
super self-critical, or you're just trying to get better, and that has an effect on how you evaluate your own material. Like, you have to judge it by the audience, and you have to kind of score how good a joke is.
I hate how much I pay attention.
How well it does consistently.
Yeah, totally. I hate how much I pay attention after I'm done with a set and like see who does better than me and who doesn't. Like I'm so bad about it. I'm just like hoping everybody bombs. Like this is like I want to do great and I hope everybody bombs.
Yeah, someone comes after you and does something that you think is hack, and you're like, all right,
and it crushes.
Fuck this audience. Their opinion means nothing to me.
That too, sometimes. Sometimes an audience is so hot, you're just like, oh, everybody's gonna crush tonight.
Yeah, well, that's still fun.
That's fun. That's really fun. It's the most fun, but it's also like not. It's not a good measure of how good you are at comedy, dude. It's like come to Aguila's and see how you do there. That's a good measure of who's good at comedy in a weird way, Which is funny. A lot of people wouldn't like that I said that because like it's very easy to go there and just bomb doing your jokes, but like that's what makes it so impressive if somebody can go down there and get everybody's attention and like do well in a room where like it's not always easy to, like that's more impressive to me than doing well in a hot crowd.
Yeah, that's what you gotta. Well, I shouldn't say you gotta. I'm a newbie, but I'm trying to be better at adapting to that, or just shit. Where was I going with that? Oh no. Going wherever, and appreciating the places that are like not the best environments for comedy, or that are really easy to bomb in because of how the room is.
The more you do those rooms, the better you'll be. And people want to pretend that's not true.
Yeah, if you adapt yourself for that and design your jokes for that situation, then you can bring them kind of anywhere else.
You should simultaneously be doing the toughest rooms, shittiest rooms you can find, the best rooms you can find, and everything in between. Mm-hmm. It's the only way to really do comedy. And the sets that you do good rooms will make you feel like a comedy god, and that you'll really enjoy having good sets in good rooms, and like you'll really hate doing pointless sets in bad rooms. But that's definitely the best way to be funny. It's like always people like, especially like comics that start getting booked at clubs a lot, they stop doing the shitty open mics because like they feel like it's not as worth their time or whatever. And like I would argue that always makes their skill drop a little, just because they're like no longer pushing themselves. It's like, man, when you can find that joke that hits in those rooms and you're just like, man, now I know I got something. Like, it's like everywhere I fucking go, this works. Like, that shit'll get you hyped up.
Open mics would still be fun as a successful working comic. And
I think so.
Wouldn't they still be opportunities to get on stage, and even easier opportunities if you're like some well-known or semi-well-known name?
Yeah.
That's
exactly. And it's like the more well-known you are, the more you can kind of pull stuff off where like you can go to an open mic and just talk. If you like have a good relationship with the host, just have him kind of throw you on at a spot, and you don't really have to show up for sign up and wait for hours.
Yeah, you can get the time in, and
as long as like your reputation is legitimate, people won't really mind. They'll get it,
Yeah, you're not
if
just...
If you've been doing comedy 10 years and you're showing up to do a spot in an open mic, nobody's going to bitch at you. If nobody who really understands how comedy works is going to bitch at you for bumping them.
Yeah, like, people respect that.
You have to pay your dues in this, dude. When you're at the beginning, it's waiting for hours to do 5 minutes. It's just part of it. That's part of the experience. It's part of how you get good.
Yeah.
And it sucks. But, like, the people that have been doing that for 10 years shouldn't have to do it anymore. And we all benefit from somebody who's that good at comedy showing up and performing in front of us and showing us how well you can do with an open mic opportunity.
Yeah.
The problem is that sometimes people want to pretend they're that person and they're not. They're they're like, I for whatever reason I deserve to get a bump spot, and you're like, man, you fucking bomb every time. Like,
I'm from this city, and here's my TikTok, and
sure,
I get here's how many
whatever
followers
it is.
and views
Sometimes
I
it's
have.
social media followers. Whatever it is. People always want to think they have a reason to be special, but like sometimes people legitimately do deserve that reputation. Is my point.
Oh yeah, it's just a matter of whether or not the reputation matches with like that having earned it by what you
as long as
respect
that's
in a
the
comedian.
perception of your reputation as well. Exactly. All right, I'm gonna do your plugs for you. Garret hosts an open mic every Tuesday at Bridget's Last Laugh. Sign-ups at 7 p.m. 6:30.
Sign-ups at 6.
Sign-ups at
Shows
6.
at 7.
Shows at 7. Come hang out at that. It's a good time. It's a good room. Come do sets.
Hell yeah.